As we've been reporting this morning, two senior State Department officials now say there never was a protest before the deadly attack on the U.S. consulate in Libya. That flies right in the face of what the administration was initially saying. And this is all coming out just hours before the House Oversight Committee holds a hearing on that attack. So we are joined now by Republican strategist Lenny McAllister. He's in Washington, D.C. Nice to see you, Lenny. And here with us in the studio, we have some CNN political analyst Roland Martin. Hey, so I want to start with you. I want to play something that the president said during the Univision Forum, and then I want to chat to both of you about this.
What we do know is that the natural protests that arose because of the outrage over the video were used as an excuse by extremists to see if they can also directly harm U.S. interests.
So, Roland, now we know that that's not true, right? That the protest did not cause this. We have a lot of reports that are coming out of the State Department. Should the president have known better?
Well, it's a question of what did you know at the very moment. Part of the problem is, if you look at when did the FBI actually get there to find out exactly what took place. I believe what happened was there was such a desperation to get an answer out that explained it. I remember early on you heard all kind of examples in terms of, oh, it was a protest, it was linked to what happened in Egypt, then you had 9/11. The last thing folks want to own up to is we don't know or we have to find out. And I think, frankly, that played a huge role in this. And this is why it was so confusing when you heard so many conflicting stories as opposed to waiting to get all of the facts. Frankly, they didn't. That's why you sort of have these different stories. And remember, by earlier, I heard Ambassador Susan Rice. What did she say? She said, what we know today, you're going to hear a lot of that. We knew at the time we thought it was this. Now we learn differently.
Well, but they were, jumping to that conclusion rather quickly. And actually, Lenny, Romney took advantage of that very early on. Do you think that he is going to continue to use that now during his campaign?
He's going to use it, but he's going to use it in a different way. I think he's going to be less inclined to jump into the fray immediately without letting the facts come out himself, because he got bitten behind when he jumped out and spoke too soon as well. Plus, he also understands that as the administration's having a hard time explaining all this, as more facts come out and you see these contradictions, it's better to allow your opponent to continue to make their mistakes and stay out of their way while they're making these mistakes, specifically while this foreign policy debate comes up over the course of the next couple of days. This was supposed to be the strong suit of the Obama administration, the point that the Republicans don't want to talk about when it comes to this presidential campaign. Now it is something that is back on the table, and the more that Governor Romney feels confident and looks presidential, the more he can address these issues with confidence as we approach the 16th.
Well, he also he can't continue to be so broad. I mean, if you look, when it's policy, same thing. Romney wants to be broad. He gave this big foreign policy speech on Monday. In many ways, he was echoing the exact same position of President Obama. And so here, okay, what are you going to do differently than what we've seen?
He's got a lot of criticism for not going into details. Wait a minute, Joe. I'm going to lose you. I'm going to lose out on time here if we don't talk about the polls. And we need to talk about the polls because they're changing a little here. Ahead of the CNN polls that we have in the key battleground states, I want to put those up for everybody to see. And Roland, what's happening here? Is the Obama campaign a little worried about this?
Easy. What's happening here is called an election. Okay, this was not going to be some kind of blowout. This election was always going to come.
Talking about that, right?
but it was always going to be a tight race. Okay, and this is about a ground game. This is about getting your base voters out. Early voting deadlines actually for registration this week in some states. Early voting has already started in some places, and so you were going to see this. Obviously, the debates played a role in it. But Obama supporters who were all hyped 2 weeks ago because of those polls, I was saying then, you're nuts if you think this is going to hold up. This is going to be very reminiscent of 2004 when President George W. Bush won Ohio by 110,000 votes and went back into the White House. This is not going to be a blowout.
Final word here.
Well, Roland's correct. This is a race, and it's going to come down to the finish, and it is about getting the base out. But let's be clear. We did not expect the polls to move in this direction after the first debate. We expected President Obama to come out stronger in the debate. We expected Governor Romney to kind of have to make sure that he could shift to the middle successfully and have to defend himself for some of the gaffes that he's had over the last several weeks. He was not even in a position where he had to defend himself, and President Obama did not do well last week. Therefore, you're seeing this tighten a lot faster than we expected. And the Democrats need Vice President Biden, and they need President Obama to come out with strong performances over these next 2 debates, or else it's going to get even tighter, and you're going to start continuing to see Governor Romney start pulling ahead with slight leads in some of these swing states.
Again, though, it was going to tighten, but trust me, Biden can't wait for the fight because, you know, he loves to do these things.
Listen, here's what I can tell you both. It's going to be interesting to watch, and it's going to be great to talk about. So we'll have you back to do that. Roland Martin, CNN political analyst. Lenny McAllister, senior contributor at Politics365.com. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you, Zoraida.
Thank you for Zoraida for bringing the hammer on the time there.
Good gracious.
All right, 49 minutes after the hour right now. And as the